Right. Hello and welcome to another edition of Talking Bollocks with HMR. I am Richard Taggart and this is our new content creator, John Bailey. Don't worry about Anthony Mapes, he's still very much the leader of this. He's just, he wants to take a more behind the scenes role with this Talking Bollocks thing, but he's going to be doing the movie reviews mainly still.
Plenty of reviews.
He's just out having a tab at the minute. So tonight's subject is sci-fi horror, something that we've grown to love, grown up with. Fucking get that in editing. Something that
We've grown up and grown to love.
Yes, grown
Nice.
up with.
That's
what I meant to say.
So we're going to do 6 films.
Yep. We're going to do the good, the bad, then there,
And then personal favourites and
Yep.
an extra one.
yeah.
So we'll start off with classic.
Yep.
The Good.
Classic for us, The Good. John Carpenter's version of The Thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of people say that this was based on a 1950s film. Well, that itself was based on a novel, yep,
Mm-hmm.
called Who Goes There? And The Thing is a much more true...
Yeah, it's interpretation.
yeah,
of the book.
it's a
Yeah.
truer interpretation of the original story of a shape-shifting alien that takes over its hosts and assimilates them with gruesome and gory results.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stan Winston did the special effects on this, and it's a really visceral, like
Yeah.
bleh type of film.
Yeah.
Not for the faint-hearted or squeamish. It's very gory.
Mm-hmm. It would probably rank high up there with my my reviews. I don't think it would end up as a 10,
No, it's not a 10.
but it's got to be a good 7.
Yeah,
It's gotta be.
yeah. You'll see heads coming off. Well, it's a very, very famous scene. You'll see heads coming off and then crawling away.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see bodies opening up.
But it's prosthetic.
Yeah, it's prosthetics. You see tendrils and
Yeah.
blah. There's no CGI.
Mm-hmm.
There was a remake very recently using all CGI, and it's still very.
It's very violent.
It's good. It's violent, but you don't get the same impact as with actual.
Yeah, it's too clinical.
Yeah,
It's too special effect.
yeah. It's a special effect, and you can tell.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than you don't get the same sense of "Ugh"
Yeah.
with the as with the old one.
There's
It's
no crunch.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
crunch and bite and drool and bleh.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's the film has with its shape-shifting aspect. It's a bit psychological where everyone becomes paranoid and suspicious of everyone, as the original title suggests. Who goes there?
Mhm.
You're not really sure who's who they are
Yeah.
and who's an alien. All in all, it's a good film. Should
Worth a
really-
watch.
Yeah, it's worth a watch. Even if you don't make it to the end, because
Yeah.
it might just gross you
I
out.
know a
bit.
lot of people who didn't. I know a
Yeah.
lot of people who didn't. But...
And yeah, 80s classic.
Should we move on to the bad?
Yeah, moving on to the bad, I think you can take this one.
Yeah.
It started off, we were very hopeful of it. But
Very hopeful. It's a series of films more than one film by itself. It's something, again, I grew up with. Grew up with a series of games. That's where it all really started, and which is the Resident Evil series. I have a lasting memory, as I've said previously, of the Resident Evil series, of the games, playing the games when I was younger, and the big warning coming on at the start of the game.
Yeah.
This game contains scenes of explicit violence and gore, and that always made me just really, think that's it's the way forward.
Yeah.
But and then they made a film of it, and the first film, and I had really high hopes for the first film.
I've only ever seen the first film. I didn't get any further.
Mila Jovovich,
Yeah, Jovovich.
something like that. Yeah, she played this random aspect of a character called Alice, who could have been potentially quite good, because it also had the Nemesis in from obviously Nemesis and Jill Valentine from the same game. Try to tie them into the first film, and didn't really manage it.
No.
In fact, no, Nemesis was in the second film, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Wasn't
it was.
It was hinted at in the first film. but
Yeah,
then
it was
like-
the very end. It was
yeah.
mentioned at the very end. Overall, it was a big budget type film that ended up just being a sort of TV movie style. Sort of feels like.
It was an obscure sort of system in the sense that it was rubbish. They spent so much money on it, and they had a really good backbone story,
which they didn't really use.
Yeah, they took this thing that has spawned all these games, and I mean, you know, you've got.
They took the setting.
Yeah, but it was still in Raccoon City, and you still had all the zombies, and it still followed, and it was supposed to take place between the first game and the second game, and they sort of took the game and they went, yeah, we're not going to use that, and it just like they just went off on one, and it was a big disappointment, and they sort of they did what Hollywood does, in my opinion. I'm not a massive fan of Hollywood in general. I mean, independent Hollywood is quite good. Mainstream high budget Hollywood I'm not a massive fan of, but they just went off on a tangent, and they went, well, in my opinion anyway, they said, right, we'll make this film. The first film didn't go well. We've got to run with it. And they just fucking went for it, and it didn't.
Well, I've got the impression from just what I see in the sequels to just try and make it bigger with more explosions and more things going on, and I've just got no interest to watch them.
I've watched all of the films. I was less impressed by every film. And it's just like, wow, how do they keep getting the budget for that? Well,
yes, and the sort of film we have
interesting
going on with the games spawned from a computer game, genre-defining computer game at that, as was Resident Evil. We have Doom, which was, you know, classic story of the bases on the moons of Mars, Phobos, Deimos, or whatever. Moons.
Yeah.
Yep. Classic story of experiments taking place on the moons of Mars. Interdimensional portals created, and literally hell breaks loose. Demons come through the portals, kill everyone. Space Marine goes there, kill everything on sight. Simple premise.
Yeah, simple premise.
You can't get it wrong, and
the film?
They made a film and they got it wrong.
They got it wrong.
Firstly, it's set on Mars itself, and then it's just based on genetic experimentation, and it's like a mutation that takes place, and monsters.
As I said previously, I mean, I used to play the game. Old school PC in the 90s, every
Atari
PC.
Jaguar.
Yeah, they all came with Doom. Played the game, finished the game, watched the film, and someone actually had to point out that it was a film of the game to me.
Yeah,
because it was so different.
Yeah, again, it's got that. It's like Resident Evil, but it's just takes a bit more of a shooty.
Who's cast in it?
Well, we've got Carl Urban, who's
good actor.
He's a good actor, and he's in a lot of good films.
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, Riddick, Dread. We also have Dwayne The Rock Johnson,
who's also in a lot of films.
Yeah, I think this is the first thing. Well, it's the first thing I've seen him in.
He was in Pain and Gain.
Yeah, but that came out like this year.
Yeah, well, he has been in other stuff as well. I'm not sure what he's really doing. He's sort of trying to place himself as an actor, but
yeah. There's a few of the actors you might recognise. Dexter Fletcher's in it, who's but it's nothing really stands out as a great or memorable scene to it. It's just a sort of you can stomach it as an action film, but it sort of pisses on the.
It's a mediocre system, so it is a sci-fi and it is a horror, but it's sort of a half-assed sci-fi, half-assed horror,
loosely based on
a
classic.
So that's a cautionary tale, really.
Yeah,
it's not totally shit,
but it's not that good
it's
either.
not amazing, so yeah, it's cautionary tale. Do you want to go into your pick?
Right, my pick of sci-fi horror. Going on with what we were saying before, things we grew up with. I grew up loving the Alien franchise, and so we'll start with the first one. The story of a big alien chasing people on a ship. Simple premise, but it was done so well and had so many minor subplots to it that it just kept going, spawned an entire franchise. The design of the alien was brilliant by H.R. Giger.
Yeah, he died recently as well.
Passed away very recently. Brilliant, memorable monster that they were actually afraid to show at first because they thought it might look a bit crap. Keep it in the shadows, keep it hidden, and it turned out that was one of the best decisions they could have made. It makes the thing more scary. You've got a big thing coming at you from the shadows. You don't know what it's going to do to you. It's full of teeth and claws. It's just
pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's again. It was no one had really done a future story at the time of like a dirty future. Everything was all like Star Trek. Everyone was used to that, like a clean future where everything's sleek and technology. And this was like, you know, things were cobbled together, everything was broken, things needed fixing, the ship was crap, everything was dark, everything was rusty and metal, and it was just brilliant and it worked. And you're in this dark atmosphere with this giant thing coming at you, and it was just scary as hell. And that brought on the sequel Aliens about 7 years later, and that just took it to a completely different level. You've got space marines, you've got aliens, you've got that same gritty setting, but you've got 80s action, you've got like one-liners, slight goofiness, but you've still got the horror, you've got the
really
action.
Works.
Yeah, it really works. You got Bill Paxton being stupid, you got Michael Biehn being cool.
You've obviously still got Ripley.
Yes, you got Ripley from the first film, obviously. You got Ripley through all of them. But yeah, I grew up with this film. Probably watched it before the first one. I don't even remember. That's how far back it was. And
I think I watched them in order, but it was a sort of accidental order because that was just the way it happened.
It's one of the few films I could probably rate at a 10 out of 10 because I'm probably quite biased against it. I know there's faults in it, but I don't really care because I love it so much.
Do you want to talk about the third one?
Yeah, the third one was difficult for a lot of people. Everyone hated it. For a reason. It had a troubled birth. It was incomplete when it was released, so it actually made no sense. There was a director's cut released, which filled in the plot holes, but it was never really properly digitally mastered until the recent Blu-ray release. And I'd urge people to watch it because people still to this day like say, well, it doesn't make any sense, and why does this happen, and what happened to this person? And they haven't seen or even know about a director's cut, and it's audially
and visually
and
staggering.
It's a different kind of story. It's a more personal story about the struggle between Ripley, the alien, and the company who want to get their hands on it for a bioweapon, which has been a subplot of the entire series, but it really comes to a fore here, and it's more about sacrificing yourself for something bigger, which is what brings it to its conclusion. And it is quite a final conclusion in the film, and I actually really like this film. Sometimes I think I like it better than Aliens.
But would you give it a 10?
No, I would. But then I come back and I think about it, and I think no, I'll probably give it a 9. So
9.5.
Aliens is still my favourite. Alien 3 a close second, and a lot of people will disagree with me, but that's just my honest opinion. And then
Alien Resurrection.
Yeah, like I say, Alien 3 had a conclusion. It ended. It was very final at the end. And then Alien Resurrection, they resurrect the series literally. They resurrect the characters, and they resurrect the monster.
It's not wholly a bad film. I mean, the actors are good. It's shot well, mostly.
Yeah.
You know, the story isn't bad.
Yeah, but
it didn't need to be there though.
Yeah, there's good characters. There's a few funny parts. There's good action, but it's a good film. But it's not really needed, and it just seemed like it was tacked on to maybe get a bit of money out of the franchise and give it a happy ending, which it didn't need, because it's not a happy story. Aliens has never been a happy story.
Hollywood.
Yes.
It's just Hollywood for me.
So that is my all-time favourite film franchise, the trilogy especially. 4, not so much, but there we go. And for John's...
my pick is another one I grew up with, 90s sort of film, is to me represents the pinnacle of sci-fi horror, which would be Event Horizon.
Yep.
A film that I would definitely give a 10.
Yeah, and surprisingly directed by the same man who did Resident Evil.
Yeah, he didn't...
He started his career well, I think.
Yeah, he started well. So
I think he did Mortal Kombat as well, but we'll forget about that.
Event Horizon is a film that's set in a distant future. Basically what's happened is there's been some sort of experiment with a spaceship which has disappeared, and then 7 years later it reappears around Jupiter. Neptune, that's right, yeah, we did discuss that. So it reappears, and the crew of a salvage ship called the Lewis and Clark are tasked by going to get it, find out where the crew is, find out what happens. And it doesn't really start as a horror in such, it starts as a sci-fi. And I mean, I like that. It changes halfway through the film. They get there. I mean, you've got good actors in there. You've got Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah, you've got Sam Neill. Sean Pertwee.
Yeah. And there is a scene with Sam Neill that I think we're probably best to skirt over, but
I think it might even just be a private joke that a lot of
maybe.
people won't understand. We just find it funny.
Yeah.
Because.
Yeah, it's a monotone scream.
Yeah.
But anyway, the film itself is very, very good. As I say, it starts off as a sci-fi. It's spaceships. There's not huge amounts of action. There's a few sort of minor horror, gory sort of moments before they really get onto the ship, and then they discover the place where the ship's been is in hell, and it's come back with a personality, a conscience, and it doesn't want the crew to leave, and they do want to leave, and it really isn't going to stop. It really is going to stop them leaving.
It's like a haunted house in space kind of film, but it's very psychological. It's very bloody, and it's very, very good.
Yeah.
Thinking about it, I think the Dead Space series. I think there's a lot of, aside from obviously the monsters.
Yeah. Influence there.
Yeah. If I had it's really successful series like computer games. If I had to sum Dead Space up, I'd probably say it was a mix between The Thing and Event Horizon, because it's very psychological. It's got that feel to it.
I do have to, without trying to spoil the end. I'm not a big fan of spoilers, but what I will say is at the end of the movie, after rooms full of blood, people disemboweling other people
throwing themselves out of airlocks.
Yeah, and it's quite graphic, and people clawing their eyes out, and lots of things.
And holding them up to the camera.
Yeah. There's a bit at the end, and I feel like it's one of the reasons why I love the film so much. You never really find out what happens. There's a there's a little premonition, and then an actual bit of what's actually happening. But do they not? People who've seen the film will probably get what we're saying, and if you haven't seen the film, it's worth seeing. But it just leaves you wondering.
Yeah, and I like that about the film. There's no sequel. There's no follow-up in any kind of way. There's a mystery left about the film that you never quite find out, and that's appealing. Yeah,
it's unique. I mean, Hollywood have managed to keep their hands off it and not absolutely destroy a good series, a good film. So yeah, definitely worth a watch.
Yeah, I think Paul Anderson tried to go back and.
With Pandora.
Yeah, he tried to recapture that with he did a film a few years ago called Pandora. It had a lot of the same kind of elements. It was in a deep spaceship, very psychological, but then it just threw in monsters, and it sort of seemed like it was just padding itself out, and it didn't turn out as well.
It wasn't a bad film though.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad film. It just wasn't as great. And then when you consider that it was the same guy who did Event Horizon, so you think, well, this film could have been so much
I think that's what makes that. I mean, it's not a bad film, but I think that's what makes the film bad. The fact that it could have been so good. Do you know what I mean? In itself, again, you know, well shot, good story-ish, good actors, but it could have been so much more.
Yeah.
It could have been, but never mind.
Finally.
We've got like a bit of a random one, which is a dual pick.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that it's my favourite. I would definitely stick with Event Horizon.
And I wouldn't say it's particularly horror. It's just violent.
It is sci-fi.
It is sci-fi. You may forget that when you're watching the film.
And it is you know, the violence creates the horror as well. But so we're talking about the new version of Dread.
Yeah. Again, this is a Carl Urban film. Not Sylvester Stallone.
No.
And people have said this is like a reboot.
I don't agree with that.
It's just another attempt at putting it into film, and it's a hell of a lot better than the original.
I mean, the original one was meant to be what it was. I mean, it was it never claimed to be anything more than it ever was.
Yeah, but it was just.
It wasn't like I'm a big fan. I grew up with the comics. I read a lot of the comics, and the Sylvester Stallone version of Dread is that's it. That's what you get. You get the 80s, 90s comical violence.
Yeah, it's almost like a like a campy superhero type thing.
And then you've got the new Dread.
Yeah, which
isn't.
Yeah,
it's violent.
It's like the original RoboCop film.
Yeah,
it's like
it's gritty.
Yeah,
it's violent. Do you know what it is? It's got a good storyline.
Yeah, which is strange. I mean,
and it actually follows the comics.
Yeah, if you watch the trailer, you may think like I did that. Well, this just looks shallow. It looks crap. Looks like you'd finish it in about 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out it was really, really good. I mean, Carl Urban as Dread. He nails Dread.
Perfect.
You never
take his mask off.
You never see his face. He's always grim, angry,
anybody who
controlled.
Absolutely, yeah. Anybody who read the comics as a kid, like or later as I did, will remember the mask and the unhappy face.
Yeah,
and he's got it.
Yeah,
he's got it perfectly.
And you've got what I usually don't like in films. You've got a slow motion effect, which is actually used to good effect in this.
But there's a reason for it.
Yeah, it has a purpose. It's a drug that induces this effect, and so you'll only see it when you're seeing through the user's eyes of this drug. It's not like the overused things like Frank Miller type things, like 300. Just do it because you're trying to look edgy and cool. It actually has a purpose in the film, and it's done in a way that like it makes everything look beautifully intricate. I mean, even like
you know, beautifully gritty, isn't it?
A bullet coming out of someone's cheek, or even just someone splashing water in a bath.
Yeah. It also, I mean, it's very well shot.
Yeah,
you can't deny that. The camera work is fantastic. The acting is also fantastic. I don't think there was ever a point where I watched it and I thought, come on, you know what I mean? Like I do in a lot of films. And what you said to me a while ago, the music.
Yeah, the soundtrack is cool as hell.
Yeah, it's very, very good.
Like bassy electronic rock type thing.
The story itself, in terms of, if you don't know the story of Dread, it's set in a it's not really post-apocalyptic, but it's just
it is. It's set in America, but everything's been decimated.
Well, the world's been decimated, but you don't see that in the film. But that's basically the way it comes. There's mega cities in America, which, you know, as you said before, I mean, it's not really explained very well in the film. It doesn't really need to be, but the basis behind it is that every mega city has a certain asset that the other wants, which stops people from, you know, destroying each other, really. This takes place in Mega City 1, which is one of the main ones, and they've got mega towers,
mega blocks.
Yeah.
Basically just a giant skyscraper that houses about 50,000 people.
Enormous.
Yeah, it's like, it's got its own little like central plaza. It's like a town in itself.
And Dredd is a judge who has the authority and the power to judge people for the crimes, and most of the sentences are death.
Yeah, pretty brutal.
Yeah. And he's likes to uphold the law. And I'm sorry, but he does have the line. He does have the line in the new film.
Well, the I am the law.
I am the law.
Yes, but he does it really well.
He does it really well.
He doesn't like say it out the side of his mouth in a shout. he does it like he does all of his lines in this. He's like very menacing and growling, which actually it's better than the whole Batman kind of voice that everyone tries to do. It's actually good.
Yes, genuine. So he's basically there's X thousand amount of crimes occurring in the city every day. He's been given a rookie to try and judge and well, not judge, but like
it's the first day she's on assessment.
Yeah, assessment. That's right. And they pick this triple homicide in one of the mega blocks, and it turns into all-out war because the block itself has been taken over by this woman, and she runs the whole lot. And she basically produces this drug called slow-mo. Dredd doesn't like this and decides that he's going to stop it.
Yeah, and when the judges arrive, the whole place goes into lockdown, and announcement is made that everyone is free to kill these judges. So they've got 50,000 people potentially wanting to kill them. Otherwise, the lockdown won't be rescinded. So, shit the bed. We've got a lot of people coming to kill us.
If you've not seen it, I can't quite bring myself to give it a 10.
No.
Definitely a 9.5.
Yeah,
definitely 9.5.
Because it's well shot, like I say. It's got good effects. It's got good action.
Go and see it. Absolutely. Yeah. And as you said before, probably one of the few films that I'd actually quite like to see in 3D.
And also has Cersei from Game of Thrones in it.
Interesting. Anyway, so I think we should probably wrap this up then.
Yeah. So we've had what we like and what we don't like in the sci-fi genre.
Cautionary tale.
Yeah. Some of them were based on computer games. Some good, some bad. No.
Yeah, that's right.
Well,
Resident Evil, bad. Doom.
So I say some good, some bad. It's mainly bad.
Couple of franchises, couple of not franchises.
Yeah. So yeah, one-off or spawning a franchise. You can make a good film in sci-fi, or you can take something that's really well loved by lots of people, like a computer game franchise, and just
shit all over it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but there's no other way of saying it. You know what I mean? So,
in fact, you can do that and be the same person, as Paul Anderson has proved.
That's very true.
And he's married to Mila Jovovich as well, somehow.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that had anything to do with her having the starring role in all of those films?
Maybe that's why she's in all those films.
I don't really rate her as an actor, to be perfectly honest. I don't think I've ever seen her in anything where I've gone, yeah, she's a really good actor.
I like her in Fifth Element.
Well, okay, yeah. Yeah, okay, I'll give you that one.
And she was also in Dazed and Confused, but she didn't do much in that. She was just stoned all the time.
Yeah, they all were though.
Oh, yeah. Right, so that's our opinion on a few movies. We'll probably, I think we're being quite coherent for talking bollocks. Really, we sort of had a few goes at this. We usually just blather it out and see how it goes and post it up and what have you. But yeah.
There's a bit of structure.
Yeah, a bit of structure. We'll try and think of something else to talk about next time. Hopefully, we won't go on
bit of a tangent.
As we have. Yeah.
But yeah, so
it could have been worse. Like a lot of things in this list, it could have been worse.
You didn't see the list. The original list was a lot longer than this, and
so was the original video. You've been spared. So
until next time.
Until next time. Hopefully next week, we will be talking more bollocks at you, if you bother to watch. Thank you and good night. And there he is. He's still alive, ladies and gentlemen, after his appendix fell.